I'm gonna let go.
Let go.
Come on. Of brokenness and people's opinions.
Woo! Let go. Let go. Yay! Let go.
According to her Facebook, Corinthian Shepard was glowing up and growing out of a tired situationship that no longer served her or her peace. She was finally turning the page on a 13-year-long saga with her longtime partner, Richard. And let's be honest, it was about time. The fairy tale they sold to the world, Black Love Goals, Mr. and Mrs. Obama of the block, Beyonce and Jay-Z, if you squinted hard enough, had long expired. While the neighbors were still sipping the Kool-Aid, those closest to them knew the truth. The love was dead, the respect had left the building, and Richard had already emotionally clocked out with another woman. Corinthian wasn't going to play the fool for the rest of her life. She was moving on, leveling up, and no longer pretending that arguing every day was a love language. But Richard, oh, he wasn't having it. See, he didn't want a wife, he wanted ownership. Corinthian trying to leave didn't just bruise his ego. It cracked the fragile masculinity he'd been clinging to like a baby blanket. And in his twisted, possessive mind, if she wouldn't stay as his wife, she wouldn't be allowed to live freely without him. When he said, "Till death do us part," he meant it literally. Not as a vow, not as romance, but as a threat. And like too many men before him, he followed through. Because in Richard's world, love wasn't love unless it ended with a coffin, and control wasn't complete until she took her last breath. Welcome to the American Crime Femicide channel. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future uploads.
And if they sent your ass to my page to see how I'm doing, baby, tell them I'm still pretty, still getting money, still standing on business.
Corinthian didn't tolerate disrespect from friends, from strangers, and definitely not from any man she loved. She was beautiful, blunt, and brilliant, with a sharp tongue and a generous heart. You could call her anything, but a pushover wasn't one of them. She wasn't for everybody, and that's exactly why the people who were in her circle loved her the way they did. She had jokes, she had wisdom, she had standards, and she lived out loud, raising 4 boys, holding down her household, and letting it be known she didn't need to be saved. She just needed you to be solid. So when Corinthian fell in love, she didn't fall stupid. She wasn't the kind of woman to lose herself in a man. She brought her full self to the table, and she expected a full man in return. What she got was Richard. From the outside, William seemed like a great catch, tall, hardworking, charming, and running a thriving side hustle in food service. He had his own motion, his own name, and his own community support. He cooked, he worked in healthcare, and he could talk the paint off a wall. Corinthian didn't choose him because she was desperate. She chose him because he seemed like a man who could match her energy. And for a time, they did match. They had a son together around 2012, bringing her total to 4 boys. And on October 22, 2016, they stood before God, friends, and family and said, "I do." Corinthian wanted a real family. Richard wanted to show the world and his sons that this is what a man should do when he finds a good woman. He stepped up. He made vows. He promised forever. But somewhere between the food plates, the flirtations, and the Facebook posts, Richard started slipping, and Corinthian noticed. At first, she kept it cute, threw a little sarcasm on the timeline. She wasn't the type to start drama in public, but she wasn't going to suffer in silence either. By 2022, she was still spoiling her man, gifting him a brand new Chevy Tahoe with a glowing caption that read, "Everyone knows how much my husband has me spoiled rotten, so it's only right I spoil him back because he most definitely deserves it. Even though your birthday is April 13th, I want to say happy early birthday, husband. It's only the beginning. Enjoy your new toy." She was doing her part, standing by him, loving out loud. But she wasn't blind, because behind the public declarations and birthday truck gifts, Corinthian was also posting warnings. In April 2023, she dropped a now infamous message. It's okay to be a fan of my man. Just don't come off them bleachers. Translation: admire from a distance. Don't try her. Don't test her. And when Corinthian really had something to say, she didn't mince words. On February 25th, 2024, she gave the people and the side chicks a masterclass in how a real woman moves. She wrote, "I was always joking about how a man hated home, lol, but let's be real. You know why I hated it? Because that woman stood on business. Unless he's a real man that's secure in himself and really focused on growing, he's going to always hate being pushed out of his comfort zone or told right from wrong. So you hoes who think you got one up and should be happy to say, oh, he hated it there, ask yourself why. He hated it there because some of us are real women, ones who require him to grow up, elevate, stand on his word, and stand for something. So when he run to you, it ain't no compliment, you easy, and don't require anything. So of course he likes it there. Well, for the moment. He knows he can give you bare minimum and dick with no explanation, and you gon' fall for it every time. Meanwhile, the woman he loved but claimed he hates so much ain't going for that mess, and that hurts his ego. So hint hint, the reason he swear he hate it but won't leave that girl alone. Instead he round here pillow talking with a low self-esteem, people-pleasing backup broad, just enough to boost him up until he feel good enough to try to go back home to try and get that same woman back. And 9 times out of 10, she don't want his ass back. Now he got a problem. But you and him both know you ain't never gonna be her. But do your big one mamas, real ones, know. Side note, reading is fundamental, but comprehension is essential. That wasn't just a message. That was a dissertation, a sermon, a warning label for women out here catching crumbs and calling it a feast. Corinthian had reached the point no woman should have to reach, publicly checking a woman for playing pick-me with a man who had already been chosen. That's the part most people ignore when a woman is forced to come outside her character to address someone who knows she's there. Someone who's been circling, flirting, and maybe even sleeping with her husband while pretending they're just friends or customers or cool people. Corinthian didn't name names, but everybody knew what she was talking about. The bold ones in his inbox, the ones giggling too hard at his food truck, the ones who just support his business but don't follow his wife, the ones who feel special because he's sneaking around with them, not realizing they're just being used to stroke a wounded ego. Corinthian had had enough. She wasn't beefing with strangers. She was battling betrayal from the inside out, and instead of continuing to suffer in silence, she put her foot down, digitally and emotionally. She started pulling back. The sarcasm got sharper. The posts got colder. And the marriage, it started dying publicly. By mid-2024, her timeline was a battlefield of half-truths and real feelings. I'm single. I'm in a relationship. I'm happy. I'm in my feelings. I love him. I'd be lying. So go find somebody else to stalk. She was tired of performing, tired of protecting his image while hers cracked in private, tired of women thinking they had a chance just because she stopped fighting publicly. Then came the smoke. I'd hate for a man to forget that I get men. 'Cause now I gotta show you. I chose you. You ain't picked me. That wasn't a flex. That was a funeral. A burial of every dream she had for the man she once adored. By 2025, Corinthian was openly declaring her independence. One thing a man can never call me is a begging-ass female. Can't talk to me crazy. I ain't looking for nothing to eat or a place to stay. She was reclaiming her dignity in real time. Not for the likes, not for attention, but for herself, for her sanity, for her boys. And Richard, he couldn't handle it. He had built his entire identity around being the man Corinthian chose. But once she stopped choosing him, he couldn't cope. The same man who stood before their sons and said, "This is how you treat a woman," was now showing them that rejection was a death sentence. Corinthian Shepard was preparing to walk away. Not with a bang, not with drama, just peace. Her post made it clear she was choosing herself, finally and fully. And Richard, he wasn't going to let her go. Not with her pride, not with her dignity, not with her life, because some men would rather bury a woman than be embarrassed by one. There was a flicker of hope, a tiny, cautious glimmer that maybe, just maybe, things were turning around. On April 29, 2025, Richard posted to Facebook with the kind of enthusiasm that felt almost foreign coming from him. "Had a job interview today at 4:15. When I walk in the building, the lady said, 'You must be Mr. Williams.' I said, 'Yes.' She said, 'We just looked at your resume. You hired already.' And I said, 'How is that?' She said, 'Your resume speaks for itself. You stay on jobs for years, and we spoke to someone at your last employment. They spoke highly of you. Can we make this happen here?' Yes, I'm the man for this job. I love what I do, and I hope to change y'all program if given the chance. License and certificate. Trust the process. Thank you, Jesus." It was oddly optimistic, a little sloppy in grammar, but drenched in pride. For a moment, Richard looked like a man trying to rebuild. He had a new opportunity, a clean slate, a reason to wake up with purpose. And maybe, just maybe, this good news would trickle into the other parts of his life. Maybe he'd learn how to love his wife better. Maybe he'd step up, grow up, and finally be the man Corinthian hoped she'd married. But hope has limits, especially when it's buried under resentment, ego, and unresolved anger. Because by that point, Corinthian had gone viral, not for a dance video, not for a hairstyle tutorial, but for that February post, the one where she read every pick-me and every sorry man for filth. The post had been shared over 8,000 times. That's not petty. That's a digital revolution. And Richard, he wasn't just a man anymore. He was a punchline, a red flag in human form. His wife had exposed him without naming him, and deep down, he knew the world was watching, and they weren't on his side. By July 2025, it was official. The couple was separated. And to most people, that was a good thing. No more passive-aggressive posts. No more rumors. No more dragging each other with coded captions. Just peace. A little air between them to breathe. Corinthian was focusing on herself. Richard had a job. Maybe, just maybe, they could co-parent from a distance and move on. But see, that would have required Richard to let go. And Richard Williams didn't know how to let go. Not without control. Not without punishment. And not without making someone suffer for leaving him behind. So on the morning of July 5th, around 7 a.m., whatever peace they were pretending to maintain disintegrated into violence. The details of the argument haven't been publicly disclosed. We don't know what words were exchanged, but we know Corinthian was in her home, their home, the one where they raised their boys, where birthday gifts were exchanged, where love was once real and now reduced to ash. And in that home, Richard pulled a gun on his wife. He didn't walk away. He didn't call his pastor. He didn't scream into a pillow like a grown man trying to handle his emotions. He pointed that gun at the woman he once vowed to protect, and he fired. Shepard, the mouthy, magnetic, no-nonsense mother of 4, was gone. Just like that, killed by the man who once called her wife. Afterward, Richard did what cowardly men always do. He tried to make himself the victim. Reports say he went outside and attempted to go himself, but the shot missed or was fake, because when his mugshot surfaced, he looked remarkably intact for someone who supposedly tried to die. Not a bandage in sight, not a visible wound, just blank eyes, as if even he couldn't believe what he'd done.
Police are investigating a shooting that killed one person and injured another early Saturday morning. Police officers were called to South Windermere Drive about 7 a.m., where they found a man shot outside a home and a woman inside with a gunshot wound to the chest. 40-year-old Corinthian Shepard was pronounced dead at that scene. The other male victim was taken to the hospital. Shreveport police arrested Richard Williams. There he is there in connection with the incident and charged him with second-degree homicide for the murder of Shepard.
second-degree murder, as if this was an accident, as if a heated argument that ends with one party dead and the other holding the gun is just a mishap, a slip-up, a momentary lapse in judgment. But make no mistake, this wasn't a loss of control. This was the point. He didn't want Corinthian to leave, and when she did, he made sure she couldn't come back. When EMS arrived, it was already too late. She died at the scene. Gone, erased, stolen from her sons, her sisters, her friends, and a world that needed more women like her and fewer men like him. The devastation was immediate and deafening. Her sister, Yvette, posted in heartbreak, "Sis, I tried so hard to get to you. I promise I did. I love you." And that's the part that hits the hardest, the helplessness of it all. Domestic violence doesn't just take the victim, it breaks everyone left behind. The friends who saw the signs, the family who wanted to help but didn't know how, the community that watched the downfall unfold in real time but didn't think it would go this far. And the sons, dear God, the sons. Now a house of 4 boys has no mother and no father, just trauma, just unanswered questions, just grief. They've expressed a desire to leave the home, to get away, to escape the space where their mother's blood stained the floor. Because how do you live in a place where your entire world was taken from you before breakfast? These boys didn't just lose a parent, they lost both. One to violence, one to handcuffs, and neither to love. No child should ever have to face this. To bury the person who kissed their scraped knees, signed their report cards, and made dinner even when she was dead tired. Corinthian Shepard was more than just a mother. She was their center, their structure, their safe place. And now she's gone. As her family lays her to rest, broken but still standing, we are forced to confront the cruel truth. Corinthian was doing everything right. She was leaving. She was speaking up. She was choosing herself. She was walking away. And it still wasn't enough to save her. Because when a man doesn't want you to leave, not emotionally, not spiritually, and definitely not alive, your strength becomes the threat. Your voice becomes the target. And your life becomes the cost. May Corinthian Shepard rest in the peace she was denied in life. And may her killer rot with the silence he tried to force on her.